Good morning, everybody. I am Omni Rusted. Today is the long-awaited and much argued about trait video. Traits are what is on the left side. Some of them are incredibly good, some of them are incredibly bad. Some of them are useful in certain ways and have little tricks you can do with them. We're going to go through all of those right now to basically tell you what you kind of want to look for. This is, naturally, the RimWorld Wiki. You can just, deal with this as it comes and how you might like it. If you want to look these up, you can. Generally, I try and go with them as my experience dictates. We'll go through them piece by piece so you can see what they do. So, nudist. Person enjoys the feeling of freedom that comes from being nude. They can handle clothing, will be happier without it. They get a -3 mood penalty for wearing any clothing except for headgear and belts. But they get a +20 mood bonus when naked. Depending on the temperature in your area, nudity can be fine. People won't generally get a bad opinion of them, though it can cause negative social effects. So they might not make friends as easy when they're naked, but they don't care. They're naked. That's a +20 mood boost. That's incredible. If you want to put them in armor, they'll put up with it, but they'll be unhappy about it, and later you can just get rid of it and have them run around naked again. Bloodlust, one of the best 3 that I love. The person, colonist, we're just going to say name, gets a rush from hurting people and never minds the sight of blood or death. This one's one of the interesting ones, which includes Bloodlust, Psychopath, and Cannibal. They get, if they wear clothing made of human skin, a mood bonus, be it +3, 5, 7, 8, depending on how much or the quality that they are wearing of the clothes of human skin. If they see a stranger's death, they get a +8 mood bonus. Very temporary, very short, but in a person who's going to be constantly in combat, such as a hunter, such as a caravan guard, something like that, they can be kept very happy with this. +13 mood bonus for killing strangers. If they kill the person themselves, they friggin' love it. Now, these 2 mood bonuses here are separate. If they kill a stranger, they get the +13 and the +8 at the same time. They get no mood penalty for wearing tainted clothing, which we'll go into in a later video. This basically, any other colonist they see die, if a person dies in that clothing, it becomes tainted, quote unquote, tainted. Most people don't like wearing these because, oh god, icky, somebody died in this. Bloodlust, they don't care. They don't care. Oh, it's got a slight blood stain in a bullet hole, adds character. Bloodlust, their negative is they are 4 times as likely to start a social fight. One of the tricks that I love with Bloodlust, Cannibal, or Psychopath, these big 3 don't care about dealing with dead bodies, moving dead bodies, being around dead bodies. Well, I mean, Bloodlust cares about being around rotting bodies. So does Cannibal, but Psychopath doesn't care about being around rotting bodies. But they can butcher them as well. We'll go into why you might want to do that later. But if you're kind of watching this video trying to get an idea of what RimWorld is, and you just got shocked that I suggested butchering human bodies, hold on to your pants, it gets worse. Anyway, those 3 don't care about butchering human bodies. Everybody else, so if you have a colonist with Bloodlust and they butcher a human body for their meat and skin, every other colonist that does not have the Psychopath, Cannibal, or Bloodlust traits will suddenly get a -6 mood debuff, a mood penalty. Normally, if you have a person that doesn't have these 3 traits, butcher a human body, they will get a penalty that stacks. So say you butcher a human body, they will get a -4 or a -8. I forget what it is. I never do it. The next time they butcher a human body, that will stack. Bloodlust, Psychopath, Cannibal, they don't care about butchering human bodies at all. They get neither a bonus nor a negative. Everybody else will get a negative, but that won't stack as compared to doing it themselves. Alright, going on, kind. Name is a kind person. They have a tendency to brighten everyone else's day and never insult others. They will sometimes tell people kind words, which will give them a mood bonus. If you have somebody with Abrasive, they don't like that. +5 mood bonus for anyone who has been told kind words by this colonist. So that's what they give other people. It's fantastic. They will never slight or insult others. It's very, very hard for them to get into a social fight. Abrasive does not like these people. If they're given kind words, they will get a negative. They will get a mood penalty. Psychopath gets neither a bonus or a penalty from it. Going on to Psychopath. Name has no empathy. The suffering of others doesn't bother them at all. They don't mind if others are butchered, left unburied, imprisoned, or sold to slavery unless it affects them. Name also feels no mood bonus for socializing. This is a positive and a negative. It means that they don't care about socializing. It means that sometimes abrasive or kind people will have harsh words for them and will get unhappy being around a psychopath person. You can, of course, use a psychopath person to deal with dead bodies, to deal with organ harvesting and surgery, to deal with butchering bodies, anything like that. They're very, very useful. They're not affected by the sight of death, unburied colonists, prisoners sold to slavery, or etc., etc., etc. Oh, rotting corpses still cause a mood debuff. That's new, actually. That must have been just the last. That's actually new. Apparently, it doesn't affect bloodlust or cannibal. That's interesting. So rotting corpses, nobody likes to see rotting corpses apparently now. That's fine. That's fine. But Psychopath, very useful, can also be very unuseful. They don't get a mood penalty, they don't get a mood bonus. Take that as you will, use it as you will. Cannibal. Name was taught that eating human meat is wrong and horrible, but one time long ago they tried it and they liked it. They get the same as Bloodlust, plus 3, 5, 7, 8 mood bonus for wearing clothing made of a human skin, plus 15 mood bonus after eating a meal made with human flesh. So if you have somebody with cannibal, you might want to set a cook to make a meal with human flesh that only they can access. If they eat raw human flesh, though, it's a plus 20. The best way to handle this, honestly, if you have an entire colony made of cannibals, great. That works for you very, very well. At that point, you can butcher humans, you can make every meal out of them, everybody's going to be super happy about it. If you have one cannibal and they're in a bad mood, you can give them some raw human flesh to eat, they'll suddenly get a plus 20 and they'll love it. Nobody else really cares about this. Honestly, you would think that there would be some conflicting traits for this. There's not. People will watch them butcher and eat another human, and they will not care. It's very strange. Alright, on to anything past the big three. Abrasive. Name always says exactly what's on their mind, especially if it's bugging them. That tends to rub people the wrong way. They have a tendency to slight and insult people. This can cause a lot of social fights. This is one of the ones that I tend to avoid if I am choosing who I'm going to bring with me. Unless that person is a psychopath and they just don't care, or that other person is incapable of the social trait. This does require a pawn to be capable of social. So if they have the abrasive trait, but in their incapable of, it says incapable of social, so like this, they won't care if the other person's abrasive, because they won't talk to them. Easy. Also means if you're trying to sell them as a slave, they get negative 15%, but we're going to ignore that. Too smart. Name is too smart for their own good. They learn everything much faster than everyone, but can be quite eccentric. Global learning speed plus 75%. They learn things a heck of a lot faster. But mental break threshold is plus 12%. They require to be capable of intellectual. They have to be able to do research stuff in order to make this useful. Now, global learning speed is any skill. Any skill that they might learn, they will learn a heck of a lot faster. If you combine this with burning passion in that skill, that stacks. They will learn this the 250, 225, something like that. I'm not going to do the math on that. They'll learn it much faster. They'll also break much easier. The slightest of inconveniences will make them have a mental break. If you think you can deal with that global learning speed, so if you think that, say, oh, this person, did I get rid of all the burning passions? This person has incredible burning passion in mining. Oh, they're also, in their traits, too smart. That could balance itself out. Making themselves happy means that the mental break threshold will kind of balance itself out. Any other nerve spectrum traits, however, such as nervous, will affect this too, so the mental break threshold percentage will stack, and you need to really watch out for that. Brawler. They like to fight up close and personal. Their accuracy is greatly increased in melee combat, but they'll be very unhappy if asked to carry a ranged weapon. This person is like me. They don't care for guns. They get a +4 to their melee skill and -4 to their shooting. Their dodge chance is way up. And they get a -20 if they carry a ranged weapon. This also disallows any shooting passion, so they won't get careful shooting, trigger happy, stuff like that. This completely disallows any of these. Also, this says they can never be a wimp. That's not true. I totally have brawler wimps. Anyway, brawlers are a great bonus when it comes to your person who's going to be proficiently melee. If you have a brawler with burning passion in their melee skill, it's incredible. They will just walk through other people. You armor them up, you give them a sword, you let them go. Never ever let them carry a gun. They hate guns. Nimble, a great thing to go along with Brawler. They have remarkable kinesthetic intelligence. They seem to dance around danger with preternatural grace. Melee dodge chance +15. This will stack with this +4. Trap spring chance is times 10%. I think this means they won't spring traps as often, but if you're putting your traps and defenses in a way that your colonists might walk into them, you're doing something wrong anyway. It's great to... Nimble is just always a good thing. It's always a good thing on any character. No matter what, even if your character is a shooter, chances are they might eventually get punched at. They could have a chance to dodge it. Always a good thing. Fast learner. Again, always a good thing. They have an knack for learning. They pick up things much faster than others. Global learning speed +75%. Hey, look, it's like the Too Smart, except without the eccentricity. Slow learner, one I always avoid. They're slow in the uptake. They pick things up much faster than the other. What? Picks things up much faster. That should say slower. Anyway. Global learning speed, -75%. If this is a person that you're always going to have, say, hauling, cleaning, whatever, it doesn't matter how fast they learn. If they've already got a heck of a lot of skill in it, like a 15 in intellectual, cool, let them in. Generally, I try to avoid slow learner. Masochist. This, even though it sounds odd, is fantastic. If you get a masochist, it's beautiful. There's something about getting hurt. They don't know why, they're just wired differently. Depending on the amount of pain that they're in, they will always get a mood bonus for it. This is a great person to have in combat because if they get injured, they'll get a mood bonus and they won't break and they'll just keep going. If they get a scar, they will love that scar. They will always get a mood bonus from that little bit of pain that they're getting. Transhumanist. Personally, I think this is a great one. They feel limited in their feeble human body. They often dream of going bionic. Positive and negatives about this. They get a mood bonus for having artificial body parts from 4 to 13. -4 for not having an artificial body part, +8 opinion of other colonists with a part installed on them, up to +40. So, if they're in social interaction with another person and that person has bionics, they'll go, "Hey, you're awesome! I love your bionic eye!" The negative about this is starting with a transhumanist. They will always have that -4 until you get them a artificial body part. Now, you can kind of trick this by giving them, like, say it's a person who doesn't need to move a lot, they're a researcher, they're a crafter, whatever, they don't need to move a lot, give them a peg leg. They don't really, they need to move a little bit faster, but seeing and manipulating, not that big a deal. Give them a wooden hand, give them a golden eye. They'll be super happy about having that artificial body part. It's any artificial body part, depending on how much efficiency in that body part you want to get rid of. They will get into fights with body purists. If you have a body purist in your colony, a transhumanist will get into a fight with them. Body purist. They believe the human body is limited for a reason. To them, bionic body parts are unethical. They get a heavy mood penalty for having artificial body parts starting at -10, going to down to -35. This means if, say, they lose a leg, they believe that they were meant to lose that leg, and you should not give them a peg leg because they will hate it. They would rather limp around on stumps. I know it doesn't make any sense, but that's just how it works. -8 opinion of other colonist body parts installed on them down to a -40. Again, they will always get into a fight with transhumanists. I try to avoid body purists. They tend to get into fights a lot because I love prosthetics. That's just me. Again, personally, in real life, I'm a transhumanist. I try to avoid body purists because it doesn't make sense to me. Anyway, a couple things to keep in mind for transhumanist and body purist is your lord or your royal, your social person, whoever you are going to have in the royalty DLC that is going to get the psychic body implants. A transhumanist will love that psychic body implant. A body purist will hate that psychic body implant. Keep this in mind. If you get a transhumanist, that is going to be your person who is going to get all the psychic body implants. They will always be happy. If you get a body purist, they cannot be your lord. They will always, always, always be unhappy about having given that psychic body implant. Night Owl. They like to work at night. They get a mood bonus if awake at night, mood loss if awake during the day. They don't get a mood penalty for being in the dark. This can be a little bit important. But generally it's going to affect things one way or the other. You can set a schedule for when they're going to be awake. If you put it during the night, they're going to get a mood bonus for then. If you have them awake during the day, they're kind of always going to be unhappy. The bad thing about a night owl is at one point during the day, they will always get a mood penalty. However, they've got that big mood bonus from being awake during the night before that. So like if you have a person who stays awake during the night, that's a night owl. And then in the morning, the sun rises, they're suddenly unhappy about it. It's okay. They had a plus 16 during the night. They can handle the -10 mood penalty. Also, being in the dark would be like great for a miner. A person who's going to be digging into a mountain is not going to necessarily have lights or torches near them. Night owl on a miner is great because they don't care about being in the dark. Everybody else gets a negative for being in the dark. Greedy and jealous are two that kind of switch off and I constantly confuse them, but greedy is the better one. They need a really impressive bedroom. They get a mood loss if they don't get what they want. -8, 8, 8, 6, 4 mood penalty for not having an impressive bedroom. These will not show up with aesthetic or jealous, which is useful because those would stack against each other. However, greedy can be handled. You can definitely handle greedy by eventually giving them an impressive bedroom. Starting out with a person like this means that you're going to have to constantly deal with that -8 mood penalty. But eventually, you can just stack a lot of really cool stuff in a bedroom, give them the impressive bedroom. They'll get a mood bonus all the time after that. Jealous. For them, it's degrading to have a less impressive bedroom than someone else. And this is the important part to look for. They get a mood loss of any colonist. Any colonist has a more impressive bedroom. -8 for not having the best bedroom. Now, if you're just starting out, this means that they can definitely get really, really good stuff. You always give them the impressive bedroom, you always give them the best bedroom. Neat. Cool. That's all they care about. This will not stack with aesthetic or greedy. However, one thing to pay attention to, eventually in the royalty DLC, the person who is acting as your lord or your knight or whatever is going to want the best bedroom, or at least an impressive bedroom. This is going to have a big problem with the jealousy thing if the person has jealousy and is not the lord. If they don't have a better bedroom than the lord themselves who requires an impressive bedroom, they're going to really be unhappy. I always try to avoid jealous unless I think I can deal with the mood penalty. Aesthetic. I consider this a positive, but it really happens. It really depends. They have forsaken physical comforts and enjoyments in favor of a simple, pure lifestyle. They'll become unhappy if... I don't know what to say. If they have a bedroom that's too impressive. They also dislike fancy food, prefers to eat raw, they never judge others by their appearance. I always consider this a really positive one. They get a +5 mood bonus for having an awful bedroom, negative for having a slightly impressive or better bedroom. Their mood is not affected by food quality, they prefer raw, and they will also go out of their way to find raw food. Their pawn beauty of others does not change the aesthetic pawn's social opinion on that pawn. They don't care if they're staggeringly ugly, they don't care if they're beautiful. One of the ways to handle an aesthetic pawn, put a bunch of rocks in their room. That's it. Make their room an area for rock chunks to go into. Now they're super happy. That's how you handle an aesthetic pawn. Aesthetic pawns are great in areas that are going to be really ugly, such as if your morgue, that's a great place to put them. Or at least they can go into the morgue without really caring about rotted bodies. If they're a minor, an aesthetic minor means they're constantly going to be surrounded by ugly, dirty area and mood chunks and rock chunks. They're going to get they're not going to care about that. So a minor with aesthetic is really good. Gay. They're romantically attracted to people of their own gender. They will only have romantic relationships with people of the same gender. This says it doesn't combine with bisexual, but that's odd because they totally do. They totally do. Someone needs to update this wiki. Anyway, guys will only be attracted to guys. If you have a problem with this being in the game, too bad. Gay people exist, deal with it. Bisexual. They're romantically attracted to both men and women. Now, we're not going to go into the Kinsey scale. There was a huge problem with this, but we're not here for politics. Except for saying that, gay people exist. Deal with it. They will have romantic relationships with people from either gender. They can totally have relationships with gay people. I don't know why it says they won't. That's odd. Anyway, that's how those two combine with each other. Misandrist. They really dislike and distrust men. They have a negative 25% opinion of men. And a misogynist, they really dislike and distrust women. Negative 25%, 25 to their opinion of any other woman. That doesn't mean that they'll hate them. It just means that they generally have a negative for them. They can still become friends with them. They'll just constantly have that negative. Generally, they will get into fights with those people as well. This doesn't mix with psychopath because psychopaths don't care. They don't care if you're a man or a woman. I try to avoid these depending. Again, these can be dealt with, but generally I try and keep them away from anybody in that social situation because they have more of a chance of getting in fights, social fights with that person. Now that we've kind of gone into those things, let's go into great memory. They have a fantastic memory for detail. They will lose unused skills for half the rate of people. Any skill that you learn over time, you will get experience with them. Over time, you will lose experience points in that skill. Great memory means you'll lose them a lot slower. That's it. One thing you need to keep an eye on. Say if you get a minor, you're going to want to occasionally throw them at mining, just to remind them that they're good at it. If they don't, they will eventually go down to 0 experience points. They won't lose their level in it, but they will lose experience points in that skill over time unless they've got really good great memory, and even still they'll lose it just slower. Tough. One of the best. Always a positive. Same with great memory, etc., etc. But tough. They have thick skin, dense flesh, and durable bones. They take much less damage than other people from the same blows. They're extremely hard to kill. They take half damage from everything. It's incredible. You always want people who are tough if they're going to be going into combat. Even if they're not going into combat. Tough is great. If they get attacked by an animal, if something falls on their head, if they get into a social fight, they'll take less damage. Neat. Gourmand. This is tough. I'm still not sure on this one. This is one of the new ones that was added with royalty. Their life revolves around food. They get hungry quickly, and if they're in a bad mood, they will often satisfy themselves by eating. Their only possible mental break is food binge. If they get into another mental break, it will often change into a food binge. They get hungrier much, much faster, but they get a little bit more with the cooking skill. That's kind of it. Is like, if you think you're in an area that will have a lot of food, or you're in a colony with a new colonist coming that has Gourmand and you think you have a lot of food, that will work out. Starting out, it can be very hard to keep a colony fed, so this might be harder to deal with unless you absolutely need that +4 cooking skill. That's up to you. Quick sleeper. Always good. They don't need as much sleep as the average person. Whether they're sleeping on a bed or a ground, they'll be fully rested in about 2/3 the usual time. They have 50% rest gain rate. Quick sleeper is great for a person that you want up all the time. Really, any person that you want working all the time. Quick sleeper is fantastic. Annoying voice, one of the big negatives. They have a particularly grating their voice, has a particularly grating nasal quality to it and tends to talk in barked, garbled phrases. This predisposes others to dislike them. They will get a negative 25 opinion from any colonist except for a psychopath. Everybody hates them. Same with creepy breathing. They breathe heavily all the time and sweat constantly. People find it creepy. I understand. Negative 25 from other colonists, negative 10% of the market value. These two, and other things like misandrist or misogynist, I generally put these people on a schedule that will avoid other people. If you have everybody on a daytime schedule, you can put creepy breathing, misandrist, misogynist, whatever, on a nighttime schedule. That way they won't get into social situations with other people. They might get a little bit lonely. Oh well. Pyromaniac. I avoid it. Just don't. They love fire. They'll occasionally start fires and will never extinguish them. If they have an incendiary weapon equipped, yay, they get a +5 mood bonus. However, they can never put out fires. Their only possible mental break is the fire starting spree. It's terrible. Never get a pyromaniac. They can't be dealt with unless you put them in a room which can't light on fire. If you're going to go into a mountain, cool. However, don't. Don't take them. They're terrible. If they're really, really great at something, if they're a shooter with like 20 in shooting skill and are a careful shooter, neat. If they're a pyromaniac, if you think you can deal with that, take them. However, I don't. Wimp. You can deal with this? I try not to. They're weak and cowardly. Even a little pain will immobilize them. Their pain shock threshold is lowered to 20%. Any pain will drop them on the ground. This can be a positive. If you make your hunter, for example, a wimp, that means if an animal turns on them, at the first bruise, they will drop to the ground. The animal will stop attacking them. If it's a person that is incapable of violence or a person you don't want in a violent situation, such as your doctor, a wimp is okay because they're never going to get hurt anyway. However, certain things that cause pain, such as sensory mechanites, will put a wimp down forever. If you think you can deal with it, or think it's okay, take a wimp. Generally, I try to avoid it. Undergrounder. They has no need to experience the outdoors or light. I am making a great time of this. They will never feel cooped up or get cabin fever no matter how long they stay inside and is not bothered by darkness. The mood is not affected by darkness, no outdoors or space needed, +3 move when indoors, +4 when underground, -3 when outdoors. Depending on where you're going to go or what this person's job is going to be, undergrounder can be good or bad. If it's a person who is going to stay inside all the time, such as a smith, a tailor, a researcher, things like that, or if you're living under a mountain, undergrounder can be fantastic. If it's a person who is going to be outside all the time, such as a farmer, hunter, animal tamer, caravan guard, building constructor, undergrounder can be really bad because they will get that -3 all the time. You basically have to balance how long they're going to be indoors as to how long they're going to be outdoors and decide if you want to take them. Tortured Artist. I don't like this. It really depends on how late in the game you are. You don't want to start with Tortured Artist. They feel alienated and misunderstood by other human beings. They will never... They'll always constantly get... They'll get into social fights a lot. They will get a constant mood debuff. Permanent -8. But gain a chance, 50%, to get a creativity inspiration after a mental break. Basically, this person, you gotta kind of constantly expect that they're gonna have a mental break. All the time. If you think you can deal with that, cool. They will get a inspired creativity most of the time, I find, after that mental break ends. So, you might get some really nice art to sell. I try and avoid it. I don't think it's worth it. These are the spectrum traits. They kind of... Again, it might be good, it might be bad. Teetotaler, if you think you can deal with it, cool. They will not go on binges. They will not even go on food binges. That is important to note. But they cannot be directed to take medical drugs. You can't handle their mood by giving them smoke leaf, beer, yayo, ambrosia, whatever. You can force administer them with the surgery option, and then they will get a -20 mood penalty. So if they're in like a staggering amount of pain that gives more than that negative mood penalty, give them some smoke leaf or yayo or something. They're gonna hate it, but it's better than being in pain. However, any pawn with chemical interest or fascination they will not like. Try and balance that as it is. Chemical interest and chemical fascination has changed in the royalty DLC after 1.1. Instead of going on constant binges like they used to, where randomly they would just go on a binge and smoke all your smoke leaf, instead they just kind of have a need for it or an interest in it. They will ignore drug policies. That is one thing to pay attention to. But now it's a mood buff or debuff if their chemical need is satisfied. You can actually handle having a chemical fascination or a chemical interest person depending on how much drugs you have in your colony. And it can be a very safe drug, such as ambrosia or smoke leaf. That has a very, very low addiction chance, or the addiction and the withdrawal isn't that bad. You can deal with this. Now, chemical interest means that they need a variety in the drugs they're trying. Chemical fascination, chemical fascination is the worst one. You can't tell them not to take drugs. That is one thing to pay attention to. They will ignore directives to not use those drugs. And they will use more than a normal person. But you can handle that. It is not a pawn-killing thing anymore. Since it does come up pretty often, that's a good thing now. Industriousness. Great or terrible. Lazy, slothful, I try to avoid depending on the kind of colonist you have. Same thing with industrious or hard worker. If they're industrious or hard worker, I always take them. But they will always get that negative social trait. So keep that in mind. They might not like other people, but they work a lot faster. Now, work speed will affect things such as building. Farming, not as important, since farming is done pretty much instantly unless it's trees. Crafting is great, and will also affect things like research and medical. Having a hard worker or industrious researcher or medical person is amazing, because they will just wrap people up like a mummy faster than you can think and move on to the next person and save lives. Constructors are really great with this. Some things do take a lot of work. Artists with industrious or hard worker are fantastic, because they will be pumping out art, which will make you a lot of money. Lazy or slothful can be bad, unless the person and the skill that they are doing does not have a work speed, which includes hauling or cleaning, or animal taming, hunting, wardening, being a warden in your prison, trading, things like this. If they're lazy or slothful, work speed doesn't matter. Keep that in mind. Speed traits. Jogger, always good. They always move faster. Fast walker, always good. They always walk faster. Slowpoke. Slowpoke, never put this on a person who's going to be running around a lot. If they're a researcher and it doesn't matter how fast they run, Slowpoke is okay. If they're a doctor and won't be moving that far because for some reason you have your doctors closer to everybody else, that can be okay. If they're a tailor, they're a smith, they're doing a lot of work in one place, Slowpoke can be okay. It doesn't matter how fast they move. Natural mood things. These come in really, really often. You really want to keep an eye on what these are. Sanguine, optimist, always good. Pessimist, depressive, always bad. If they have something that can get over this, so say they're going to be doing something that always makes them happy, like a burning passion in something, then pessimist, not really going to matter. They're always going to have that -6 mood penalty. You have a depressive nudist? If they're always out of clothing, then it doesn't matter that they're depressive, because nudist is a +20, depressive is a -12. That's a +8 all the time. It can be dealt with. Nerves. These traits affect the colonist's mental break threshold, how often they're going to have a mental break, such as insulting spree, any kind of binge, food binge, drug binge, whatever. Whether they're going to go wander around in their room or hide in their room or do whatever. Things like this. Whether they're going to go to an extreme break risk and go catatonic or leave your colony entirely. These are things to pay attention to. Iron-willed, steadfast, always good, lowers their mental break threshold. If you get an iron-willed person who is too smart, hey, guess what? That's a +6 or a -6 to the mental break threshold. You can now have a too smart person that will never break. Awesome. Well, I mean, they will break, but it's less likely to, and they have a better global work speed. Great. Nervous can be dealt with. -8, honestly not that bad, depending on how you deal with moods. If they have a lot of things keeping them happy, nervous or volatile will not be that big a deal. It all depends on whether you think you can deal with it. Now, important thing to note, natural mood traits and nerve traits will affect each other. If you get a sanguine person with that plus 12 mood bonus that is also volatile, hey, if they have a lot of things making them unhappy, they'll have a higher chance to break, but it's going to be really hard to make them unhappy. Neurotic traits. These are some of my favorite. They give great bonuses on the global work speed. They just have a higher mental break threshold. I feel that these can be dealt with. These can be handled. If you feel you can handle them, that global work speed is an incredible bonus and is much, much more likely than Industrious or Hard Worker to come up on a pawn. Shooting accuracy. Both these, always good. Always good. Depending on how you do it. Careful Shooter means it takes much longer for them to aim, but they'll have a higher chance of hitting when they do shoot. Trigger Happy means they'll shoot much, much faster. They just have less of a chance of hitting. Depending on the weapon that you give these guys, these two traits can be very useful. A trigger happy person with a minigun means bullets are going to go everywhere, but they're going to constantly go out. They have a bullet hose and they don't care where those bullets are going. That could be good or bad. You can slow down an entire wave of manhunters or tribals with one trigger happy person with a minigun or an assault rifle, because bullets are going everywhere. That also means everybody's getting hit. Careful Shooting can be great because that means they're very, very slow to shoot, but if you give them a very accurate weapon, such as a rocket launcher, such as a hunting rifle, such as a sniper rifle, they're going to almost always hit and their shots are going to be devastating. Have you got a mechanoid raid that is coming in and is sitting off in the distance and is just sort of like milling about, but they've got something such as a power thing that will explode right next to a bunch of guns? Take a Careful Shooter out way out of their range with a sniper rifle. Shoot the thing that's going to explode, and it'll explode everything around it. Do you have a siege? They're way off in the distance, lobbing mortars at you, and you're able to kind of last through the mortars. Send a sniper rifle out with a Careful Shooter. Have it aim at their shells. Those shells will explode and kill people around them. Now, beauty. These traits influence a colonist's appearance and how it affects other colonists' opinions of them, as well as sexual attractiveness. Beautiful. These are interesting. There's beautiful, pretty, ugly, staggeringly ugly. If they're staggeringly ugly, everybody but a psychopath will hate them. Same thing with ugly. Pretty and beautiful can be good, can be bad. It means that people will be more likely to like them. It means when trading, when meeting people from other colonies, when going into peace talks, they get a better bonus to their social skills. However, your colonists will always be hitting on them and trying to sleep with them. This is a big negative. If the beautiful person is married, their spouse will get a negative social impact on the person that hit on them, and the person that hit on them will get the rebuffed debuff all the time. And that stacks with itself. That can be very, very bad. Take this into account when selecting a beautiful person. Psychic sensitivity. This is an interesting one. It used to be 100% always bad. Things affected by psychic sensitivity include the psychic soothe pulses or the psychic, the bad one. Both of these are affected by psychically hypersensitive, psychically deaf, etc. Psychically deaf people will never be affected by psychic soothe pulse. However, they will also, if a person is psychically deaf, they can never be affected by psychic abilities or what are they called? The shock lances. They can't be hit by those. So, could be good, could be bad. Enemies will never use a psychic shock lance. So, might not matter. If an enemy has psychically deaf, they can't be hit with a psychic shock lance that you're holding. Could be good, could be bad. Psychically hypersensitive, though, also affects psychic abilities wielded by your lord, by whoever you have in charge of your colony, who is going to be representing yourself as a baron or a knight or whatever. Their psychic abilities will be stronger or weaker if they have these traits. If you have one that, if you want to, say, stun, use the psychic ability stun on another colonist, on another stranger or somebody attacking you. If your lord is psychically hypersensitive, it will last 80% longer. The stun or the blindness will last 80% longer. If they're psychically deaf, they can't use those abilities at all. Immunity. These are super important. Always take a super immune. Super immune is incredible. They will get sick less often, and they will recover from sickness faster. This includes infection. If they are infected, you don't even have to give them medicine. You barely have to treat them. They won't care. They'll just get right back up and keep running. Sickly is terrible. Always avoid sickly. They get better medicine skill, sure. However, they'll randomly catch a disease independently from the rest of the colony on average every 2 quadrants. That's terrible. Also, it takes them a heck of a long time to recover from any illness. If you get a sickly colonist, I guarantee them, the first time they get infected, they're going to have to take that limb off of them. You're going to lose this person to disease eventually. Don't get a sickly person. Obsolete traits, Prostophile, Prostophobe, Green Thumb, Tunneler. These don't exist anymore. These used to be in the game. They don't exist anymore. So, goodbye to these. Prostophile got replaced with Transhumanist. Prostophobe got replaced with Body Purist. Green Thumb doesn't exist anymore. It's just a farming skill. If you had a Green Thumb grower, they were happy all the time. Tunneler, same. They loved mining. Now that's kind of gotten replaced with Aesthetic. Pretty much, yeah, this is replaced by Underground or Aesthetic, whatever. But there you go. That is the trait breakdown. Whether you'll want them, what you'll kind of look for in your traits here. So, Chemical Fascination, Slowpoke. Both negative traits. Technically negative traits. Get rid of that. Misandrous, Pessimist. Hey, that's 2 negatives to 1 positive. Let's get a review. Annoying Voice, 1 negative, but to a positive. That means that every time they socially interact with a person, they're going to get a positive and a negative. If they've got really good skills, I can deal with it. This person, Dem Labor, Crafting, Cooking. Oh, capable of a lot. Let's get rid of them. Ooh, really great Constructor. Negative, negative, positive. Incapable of a lot. Get rid of them. Incapable of Dumb Labor. Can't haul, can't clean. Psychically deaf, neither negative or positive, depending on the skills over here. Undergrounder could be a good miner. Oh no, they're bad. They're bad at that. Instead, they're a constructor and a planter. However, Undergrounder, artistic. You could have this as an artist person, not a person you want to start with though. Social, they have a little bit of passion in social and artistic. As a person levels up and as you get longer into the game, you're going to want to have at least 1 or 2 or 3 people, depending on how you want to play, that is going to be the Lord, that is going to be doing and getting all of your bonuses from the Royalty DLC. All the psychic abilities, all of that, and is going to be going towards different goals in your game. As they go on, this person will lose the ability to do skills. Eventually, at the top tier, the only things they can do are social and artistic. Keep this in mind when choosing your lord. So, this person, hey, artistic and social? Undergrounder? That could be a lord. Oh wait, psychically deaf? Nope, because then they wouldn't be able to use psychic abilities. Slow learner? Misogynist, negative. Positive, Basically, that's kind of how you want to go through your colonists. You want them to have mostly positive traits or negative traits that you can deal with. So, for example, this person. Great shooting skill. You want 2 shooters, 1 melee. Because those are the weapons that you start with in this specific scenario. Peg leg, hey, his 1 leg is efficiency 60%. It can deal with that. He's a shooter. Defensively, he won't be moving. Crafting. Ooh, really great crafter. Oh hey, animal skill and shooting, he could be a hunter. Trigger happy, he'll be a great shooter. Slow learner, that's okay. His shooting started reasonably high. Tough, oh, this right here. He's a caravan guard. He's got great shooting skill. Trigger happy and tough go great together. Animal skill, that 150% will offset the negative 75% from the slow learner. That means it's only a negative 25% to learn how to deal with animals. Eventually, he could be your beast master. And you could also do different things like, for example, giving him neurotrainers to learn him more animal skill, to teach him more animal skill. You could replace that peg leg with a bionic leg. He could be an amazing caravan guard. Sure, he can't do medical, but somebody else in the caravan can deal with that. That's the kind of things you want to look out for. Starting your characters, however, this one wouldn't be that good. He's not a constructor. He's not a miner. He's not a cook. He's not a farmer. He's not medical. He's not social. He's not a researcher. You want to make sure you have miner constructor, cook planter, medical intellectual, or social intellectual. Basically, you want a researcher, person that can do social. You want a lord. You want a farmer. You want a lord. You want a food person. You want a person to build your home. Those are the three kinds of people you want to start out with. Thank you all for watching. I'm Omni Rusted. You've been awesome. I'll see you next time.